So I had to stand up against the wall in the bathroom to get this lighting. You see this light here? And then there's that light right there, which is very nice. So, but I have to hold the phone camera up against the thing here and stand it underneath this little window light because I don't have a professional studio. So this is I do like to try different things. If you haven't noticed, I like to try different settings. Though I do a lot of videos in my van or in my bus. I admit that. Or in the if you look over here, I know you can't see it, but there's an office over there. What to do about my forehead? I gotta do something about my forehead. Oh, me. The makeup's left over from last night. Anyways, where'd my light go? And the sun went behind a cloud. I'm having a problem with drinking. I drank last night a lot, quite a bit. Let's see, I had 3 or 4 beers and a monster margarita. That's not a whole lot, but for me, but that was quite a significant bit. I spent probably, what I drank was probably about $20 worth of alcohol, which is more than I want to spend on alcohol at any given time for one night. Usually I spend like $3 or $4, on two still reserve cans. It's like the cheap, nasty stuff. Anyways, I drank last night, and then I did not drink the night before that, but then I drank either the night before that or the night before that. And both of these two nights that I drank, that I'm mentioning, both occurred after I told myself to quit. So, I made the decision to quit, but apparently I just my ability to keep promises to myself or to stick to my own decisions. Apparently this comes from low self-esteem. Maybe I think sometimes I want to convince myself that I don't deserve happiness. It's like I take a step towards happiness, and then there's this part of me that just takes a baseball bat and says, "Ah, fuck you! You don't deserve happiness." And so I don't know. I don't know if that's what that was. The first night that I drank after I made that commitment, I had a kind of an excuse, you might say. I was in kind of I had like a chest pain and kind of headache and symptoms of, you might say, of withdrawal and or of something. I'm not sure what, but because I am currently without estrogen also, so I don't know if I was going through estrogen withdrawals. I don't know if there is such a thing as estrogen withdrawals. I don't know. I have not read yet what happens if you take estrogen for a long time and then stop, as far as like, how do you feel? Do you get headaches, that sort of thing, like you would if you stop caffeine or whatever? So it could be that I am just sabotaging myself, but I was thinking about what the the counselors when I went to the VA's substance abuse treatment program in Atlanta. It was kind of like a 12-step program, similar in kind of you might call the atmosphere. It was just a group, but there were there was no sponsors, and it wasn't actually a 12-step. It was just 3 counselors. Sorry, 4, and who they rotated. So there's 2 in the group. Every day in the group there would be 2 counselors at least, out of 4. but there, like I said, it wasn't 12-step. It was the four counselors, and then the you might say the patients, the people going through the group, people with a substance abuse problem. So I went through that program. I did also go to a 12-step AA and that sort of thing in Atlanta. I was able to stay sober for 2 years, completely sober, and but one of the things they told us is that if you want to get off of drugs, if you have a problem with drugs and you want to get off, it's not enough just to stop. You have to turn your life around, so to speak. You have to start living a life that you can, you might say, be at peace with. You know, that you don't feel the need to escape from, because this is what you're doing with the drugs, with the drinking. That you are essentially, your life is such that you feel like you can't sit with it, right? You're not okay with it. There's something wrong. Maybe you don't even know what's wrong. You just feel a certain way, and this is causing you to want to avoid reality, basically. And this is something that science has shown, you might say, with the experiments on animals, where animals that were in cages were given drugs as an option, you might say, for their meal. They were presented to food. They had they could choose between drugs or food. And what they found was that the animals who lived in cages would most of the time choose the drug over the food. But once you let the animal out of the cage, and they did this on rats, and at least they've done it more than one experiment, but the experiment I'm thinking of was one with rats. And they had the cage for the rats, but then they also had what they called a rat park, which is a wide open area where the rats could interact with each other. They could get exercise, they could have sex with other rats and that sort of thing. And when they released the rats into this rat park, they found that the rats then stopped using the drugs. They started eating food. They preferred the food over the drugs, I'll put it that way. And I don't know if they became totally abstinent. I don't know what happened there, but I thought, well, that's an appropriate analogy for my life, and probably for the life of people who use drugs, is that I was living in a cage, right? I've been in a cage my entire life, basically. And it's taken me years to start now I've got one of my legs outside the cage, you know. I've got a hand out, and I can actually kind of maybe put my hand on somebody else, but ooh, you feel good, that sort of thing. But I'm still a little bit in the cage, especially when I look at my forehead. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's gonna love me with a forehead like that. But but the thing is, you know, we live in a society where it's very hard to find someone who can show you what a good life is. You know, there are people who objectively, right? Because someone, maybe there's somebody like Elon Musk. You might look at him and say, "Oh, he's a billionaire. He owns all these companies. He's a success." But is he happy? Is he enjoying his life? Is he using drugs? I watched 2 documentaries. I don't want to get too far into these weeds, but I watched 2 documentaries recently. One was about Elvis, and one was about Kurt Cobain. And I thought it was interesting that I watched those two back to back because they were very similar stories as far as the lives of the individuals. Because both Elvis and Kurt Cobain were, how do I put this? They were the avant-garde. They were kind of the bearers of a new way, you might say. The trendsetters, kind of, I guess. And they were both propped up as these kind of almost like deified human beings, right? And but of course, Elvis died at 42 years old of a heart attack, apparently resulting from his drug use. He had 14 drugs in his system when he died. The article that I read, that's what, according to the article that I read, not the documentary. So after I watched the documentary, I looked it up just to see like what was his actual cause of death. I mean, they said it was a heart attack in the documentary, but I wanted to know, like, he was only 42 years old, right? What caused the heart attack? And so the article that I read said that he had Dilaudid, Percodan, Demerol, codeine, and then 10 other drugs, is what the article said. And of course, Kurt Cobain was addicted to heroin. He was shooting up heroin when he and his wife were having a baby and that sort of thing. So was his wife. And he was in they were both in similar situations as far as like their social status, right? Their place in the kind of the ongoing social narrative. And Elvis died at 42 with all these drugs in his system, overweight and kind of, a has-been. And then Kurt Cobain, of course, killed himself. And you might look at their lives and think they had it made. Kurt Cobain had one of the best selling albums of all time. I don't know how much money he made and that sort of thing. Same with Elvis. I don't know how much money he made. I know he made lots of money. He was adored by millions. But he felt the need to escape from his life. He felt the need to avoid reality. He felt the need to get fucked up, as did Kurt Cobain. He felt that, I forget how it went, something like people were criticizing his wife or something like that. He was in the middle of a tour, he had just started the tour, and he basically called it off or something like that, and then he went and basically hid out with his wife, and they shot up heroin constantly. And why? My point is that if you live in America, you may look out in the world, into society, the place where you live, and think, there is nothing here for me. There is no good life to be had here. Which is how I've been pretty much my entire life. It just seems like, at least for what the society itself provides, right? Like if I look at what's available, if I look at the jobs that are out there, I'm trying not to look at my forehead. If I look at the jobs that are out there, I could go to school, right? And just stay in school for the rest of my life. What I feel like when I look out there is I feel like there is just nothing. The society has nothing to offer me for as far as having a good life. It has things to offer me for having a more materially comfortable life, right? Like I could have a nicer house. I live in my bus currently I have no electricity in the bus. Well, I have a little battery pack, but I don't have enough electricity to run a refrigerator, an air conditioner, an electric stove, things like that. So I could improve that, right? I could have a more comfortable life, I could have a higher material quality of life. And when you look at America, you see that Americans have what you might call the highest material quality of life of pretty much anybody around, except maybe in China that they're getting caught up over there. They were behind there for like the last 100 years, but now they're getting caught up. Where now you look at some Chinese cities and they have a greater material comfort, but I don't want to get into that either. But if you look at statistics on like America's physical health and their mental health, Americans aren't doing that great. I forget what the statistics were. I was watching a Dr. Gabor Mate, who I really enjoy watching and I recommend watching. He was talking about the statistics of Americans who are currently taking some kind of psychiatric drug or prescription drug for mental problems, like whether it's anxiety, depression. I gotta do something about my forehead. It's just distracting me. I'm gonna end up looking like Dr. Phil, but with prettier eyes. Do I have pretty eyes? I think I do. But Americans are just not doing very well as far as mental health. There's a lot of drug use in America. There is a socially acceptable drug culture, which is alcoholism. The alcoholism culture. If you watch TV, especially during sporting events, you're going to see beer commercials, right? And you're going to see beer kind of put up here as this like, hey, this is what you want, right? This is the way to have a good life. Is go park your truck out by the football stadium or out in the woods and have your radio on, or out get your grill out and get a big cooler full of beer, and you got it made. So is that the way to a good life? Huh? Is that the way to a good life? I got drunk last night. I didn't enjoy myself. The only time I enjoyed myself yesterday was when there were people here in the shop. I'd already had one beer then. The people who were here had already had. Apparently they had more than one beer before they came over here. There was some event yesterday. I didn't go to it. But some of the people who work here and some people who don't work here all met here to go to the event, and they were in here kind of mingling as they waited for everybody to show up. And I was up here, as I'm almost always up here. I was doing my homework, and I'd had a beer, so I went and mingled with them for a little while, and that was the most that I enjoyed myself for the entire evening. But after they left, because they were drinking, so I started drinking with them, and even though I'd already started drinking before they got here, I'd had one beer before they got here, and then they got here, and I had probably two more, and then they left, and I thought, well, now I need to keep drinking now, because once I get a certain amount in me, I feel like I have to keep going. But I'd actually had two before they got here, one big one and one small one. But after they left, I got drunk, but it didn't do me any good. I didn't finish my homework. I ended up watching YouTube videos of people reacting. I watched a couple, a man and wife, husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't know if they're married, but they record themselves watching movies, right? So I basically watched movies with them all night, and I thought, at that time, I was like, well, this is the best I can do. But after I woke up, now I'm looking back at it, and I thought, that's sad. That is just fucking sad. There's a line from the Bible. How much time am I at? 1954. the Bible talks about this very subject, and this is one of the reasons why I like the Bible. I think other religions talk about it too, but I think that in the Bible it is given a little bit more, especially in the New Testament, because in the New Testament you see that they the word, my lower back is starting to hurt from doing this. Wow. And where did the sun go? Where did my son? I lost my son. The light of my life is gone. The light of my life is gone. But if you read the New Testament in its original Greek, and I don't want to try to argue about whether it was originally written in Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek. I call it the original Greek because, as far as anybody knows, there are no older copies of the New Testament than those that were first written in Greek, and which may be a good thing. I don't know, but because the Greeks had more than one word for life, and in the Bible, it talks about primarily two types of life. Or it doesn't really talk about two types of life. There are two different words that are translated into English as life in the New Testament, and so one of those is Zoe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's spelled Zeta Omega Eta, or Zoe, and then the other one is Psyche, which is translated as life, but it can also be translated as mind or soul. And in some cases in the New Testament, it is translated as soul also. I believe when Jesus says, "For what should it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?" That the word there is psyche. So, but that's also the word that's used when he says, "Whoever tries to save his life will lose it." That word "life" there is a translation of psyche. So you could also translate that as whoever tries to save their soul will lose it, or whoever tries to save their mind will lose it, but whoever loses their mind for my sake will find it. And that's how the rest of that sentence goes. Or you could just use the word psyche. Whoever tries to save their psyche will lose it, but whoever loses their psyche for my sake will find it. But then the word Zoe is used in a different way. So, right, like when Jesus says, "Small is the gate and narrow the path that leads to life." That life is Zoe, and Zoe, if you look it up in the Greek dictionary, it means true life, real life, a genuine life, but also a life that belongs only to God. So that's also, again, in the New Testament, when it starts off in the Gospel of John, it says, "In the beginning was the Word was with God," so on, so forth and so on. And then it gets to, "In him was life," meaning the Word. "In him was life," that's Zoe there, not psyche. "In him was Zoe, and that Zoe was the light of mankind." So what you have is this picture that there is what you might call a real life. Right? That there is the life that I'm living. The reason I'm on drugs, basically, is because the life that I'm living, on alcohol anyways, is because the life that I'm living is essentially fake. Right? That I'm not living according to my own true divine nature. Right? When I say divine, I mean the nature which God said, this is who you are. So that's my thought on that, and that is one of the reasons why I study religion, because I feel like to have a life that has some kind of meaning. I feel like there has to be, for me, like a larger self. There has to be something more to my life than just working to make money, coming home and watching television, getting drunk, and passing out, right? There has to be more to my life than that. There has to be more to my life than becoming a rock star, right? And having millions of people love me, or becoming a movie star, or becoming Elon Musk and running 4 companies or whatever it is he runs, but working 18 hours a day to get to Mars and things like that. Like, does he really need to get to Mars, or is he just trying to is he trying to avoid reality by obsessing about getting to Mars? You know, maybe he's trying to run away from something. You know, with all this kind of workaholic behavior. So, was there any point to all that, or was I just preaching my sermon? I would say there is a point to that. The problem that I'm having here is that I don't know what to do about that, right? So I can't sit here and say, well, if you want to find the way to real life, this is what you need to do. I would like to be able to do that, but I can't. Even if I knew my way, that doesn't mean I can tell you your way. I'm trying to find my way, right? But that is, I just posted I just finished, my last video that I posted was the "What Am I Looking For" video, and this is, I am making this video as a kind of follow-up to that one, you might say, that what I'm looking for. I've mentioned in that one that I'm looking for is my home, but you could also translate that as, or I also said the real me, but you could say that as I'm looking for that Zoe, that real life, that genuine life, that life that when I find it, I won't be concerned with death the way that I am. I'll feel like, hopefully, that I think one of the reasons that I'm afraid of death is that I've not found the life that I'm looking for. So, I do have certain questions about that as far as what real life is, because I don't know how much of me having a real life is dependent on other people. Like, do I need to get someone to have a relationship with me to have a real, genuine existence? Do I need to have a wife or a husband? Do I need to have children? Things like that. I'm not going to have children as an experiment. I'll take hormones and grow breasts as an experiment, but I'm not going to have children as an experiment. You know. About the only thing that I have left to try is to try having a boyfriend. I've had girlfriends before. I've never tried having a boyfriend. Just the thought of it kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I feel like to some extent I have to be rubbed the wrong way, because I'm constantly rubbing myself the right way, and it's not getting me anywhere, right? I'm rubbing myself the way I want to be rubbed, and I feel like is part of my problem. So, in other words, I have to get outside of my comfort zone. And that's where I think I need to stop. So, I'm going to go do my homework. Bye.